Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending the Street Transportation Department's virtual public meeting about the Hatcher Road Improvement Study, which stretches from 19th Avenue to Central Avenue. If you'd like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, we do have a Spanish translation line. Albert Granillo will be our translator tonight. Albert, please introduce the information in Spanish.
Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor marque el 602-534-1000 y luego el número de la reunión, que es el 40392, y luego apriete el símbolo de número. Thanks, Vivian.
Thank you, Albert. Well, thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. My name is Vivian Padilla, and I am a Public Information Officer with the City of Phoenix Street Transportation Department, and I'm your host for tonight's meeting. On your screen, you will see a list of our project members, so please go ahead and introduce yourself as well as your relationship to this project, starting with Leticia.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leticia Vargas. I'm a Special Projects Administrator in the Design Construction Management Division, and my team is leading this study. Welcome.
Mariel, I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you. All right. Hi, I'm Marielle Brown. I am the project manager for this project. I work for Leticia in the Design and Construction Management Division, and I am excited to be here tonight. Thank you.
And my name is Aaron Allen. I'm a landscape architect with J2 Design, and we were the project consultant working with the City of Phoenix on this project.
Alrighty, thank you for that. On your screen now, you will see tonight's agenda. We will begin with our project goal, as well as details about the area. We will then be hosting our first audience poll, where we'll need your participation, so keep your eyes on the screen. We'll then review the project process and the project alternatives, and then we'll go into what's next and get more community perspective by answering questions live at the end of this meeting. For tonight's meeting, there will be one poll question, and it's crucial you participate in it to let us know your thoughts. We will be answering questions from the Spanish line first, if any. Could we advance to the next slide, please? Next slide, then. Alrighty, perfect. So those who ask to be called on during the registration process will be unmuted, and then those who submitted questions during the registration process will get their questions answered. And finally, questions sent to us via the Q&A box will be answered. The chat box is where you can submit your comments, and your comments will be shared with the project team. So please go ahead and activate those on your screen. And on the next slide, you will actually see an example screen of what your screen should look like. You can see yellow arrows pointing to red circles. Click in those areas on your own screen so that your chat box and Q&A box open up. And in a similar fashion, the poll will also pop up when we get to that stage. So take a moment to look at your screen and activate these sections on your own. Alrighty, and now that we've covered some basics, let's go ahead and get started with Leticia.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome again. I want to thank you on behalf of the Street Transportation Department for joining us on this second virtual public meeting for the Hatcher Road Streetscape Improvement Project. We really know how busy everyone is, and so taking the time to be here virtually with us is really important, and we so appreciate it and value your participation. I encourage you tonight to continue this conversation with us, your project team. We really look forward to sharing the information that we've heard to date, and also report on some upcoming planned activities that we're working on as a direct result of what we've heard through your input and feedback. So we understand the importance of continued collaboration with the community, and we are excited to do more of that tonight. So without further ado, I want to hand this off to my team and project manager, Marielle Brown.
Great. Thank you, Leticia, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Vivian, for being the host tonight. And thank you to everyone who's here to learn more about the project. I am Marielle Brown, the project manager, and I'm excited to be here. So tonight we're talking about Hatcher Road from 19th Avenue to Central Avenue. So this is where we did the pre-design study, as you can see on your screen. But before we get into the discussion of what we're recommending, we want to hear from you and how you're connected to Hatcher Road. A poll will pop up in the bottom right of your screen in just a few seconds to ask you how you're connected to Hatcher Road. So please take a moment to fill it in and let us know so that we have a sense of who's at the meeting. And as soon as the poll closes, I'll be able to share that information with everyone. So please just take a moment and let us know how you're connected to Hatcher Road. A, I live near the project area. B, I use this street to commute to work or school, run errands, access businesses or recreational activities or other. C, I work at or own a business in the project area. And then D, none of the above. And you can put your answer in the chat box if you'd like. You can choose multiple ones. We understand that people usually have multiple reasons for going to Hatcher or some other street. So please take a moment to fill it in and we'll be able to share in just a minute. Hey, Vivian, how much longer will we have the poll open?
Absolutely. So I can actually track how people are responding. And I see that we're still waiting on a couple of other individuals. So just as a reminder, you should have seen a poll pop up. It's just one question, 4 different options. You can select multiple. And we do ask that if you fall in the none of the above category, you actually respond with more details in the chat box. That would be really appreciated. So I will let you know, Mario, once we can close up the poll.
All right, thanks. And as soon as we can close the poll, I can share those and we can talk about project recommendations.
All righty, we are closing it up. I know that we're still waiting on a couple of people, but it's already closed, so you should have the results now.
Okay, all right, great. So it looks like of the people here, we have 7 people who live in the project area. We also have 4 who use this street to commute or access businesses, recreation, and then also 4 who work at or own a business along Hatcher. So it's great to have such a wide range of connections to Hatcher here tonight. All right. So just as a review, this is where we've been with this project. So this is a pre-designed project. We're looking at a concept that we can take forward into design and into something that will actually lead to construction. So this was figuring out what's possible and what does the community want. We kicked this project off in summer of 2021, really talking about what are the priorities and then also what are the opportunities. Based off of what we heard from the community with a first survey and also attending a community meeting, we were able to develop alternatives, and we brought those alternatives to the community in the fall of 2021. We had 2 options, and based off of what we heard from the community in that meeting and in the survey, we were able to develop final recommendations. And so now it's the fall of 2022, and we're here to share the recommendations with you, and this will be the closeout of the pre-design study, and that's what gears us up for future design work. So just as a reminder, when we first asked the community, does the current design of Hatcher match your priorities? What we heard is for some people, it really works for them the way Hatcher is right now, and for other people, they really want to see something different. So we had a lot of a very, very broad array of preferences for how much we should change the street. So we really took that into account. And also, as we started this project, we found that there were a lot of constraints in the corridor, and I just want to go over them to give some context for the recommendations. On the north side of the street, there are 69 kV power lines, and they're very costly to underground. They also restrict tree planting. And then in other sections or throughout the corridor, there are things that make it very challenging to acquire right-of-way to widen the sidewalks. And that includes grade changes, front-end parking, so widening or changing the sidewalk would impact the parking. And then also there are buildings right along the right-of-way line, so expanding sidewalks would impact the building. So we wanted to be sure that we were making recommendations that were feasible. At the same time, there are a lot of opportunities on the corridor. The canal entrance area has the potential for shade trees to be planted. The power lines on the south side could be undergrounded. And there's also the potential to extend the buffered bike lanes and center turn lanes to Central Avenue. Right now it ends at 7th Avenue, and the street is wide enough to extend that to Central. So with that, we presented 2 alternatives, and based off of what we heard from the community, there was a strong support for option B, and that is the preferred alternative, doing north and south improvements. So there are really 4 different elements to this preferred alternative. Tree planting near the canal, extending the buffered bike lanes and center turn lane from 7th Avenue to Central Avenue, undergrounding the utilities on the south side of the street, and then doing sidewalk improvements on both sides of the street. So this was option B that we presented, and it's the one that we're going forward with based off of what we heard from the community. So I'm going to go over the details of this pretty quickly. If you want to see a detailed roll plot, you can download it on our website. It should be uploaded, and you'll be able to see the details. All right, so I'm going to go over it in 3 sections, 19th Avenue to 17th Avenue, 17th Avenue to 7th, and then 7th to Central Avenue, because each section has slightly different opportunities based off of what's there now. So from 19th Avenue to 17th Avenue, roughly, this is the area where there is the opportunity to plant trees near the canal. And we are definitely heard from the community there's interest in it. And I think, as some people might know, that project's actually going forward and is previewed for the fall. We'll be maintaining the current striping as is. We'll be looking to do sidewalk improvements on both sides of the street and to underground the overhead electrical where it occurs. And here's a snapshot of the roll plot. So if you'd like to see what those sidewalk improvements are in detail, you can download this from our website and look at each of the addresses in each of the sections that you're interested in. And then the next section is 17th Avenue to 7th Avenue. And in this section, it's very similar to 19th Avenue to 17th Avenue. We'll be keeping the striping as is, undergrounding the electrical wires, the overhead electrical on the south side where it occurs, and doing sidewalk improvements on both sides of the street where feasible. And again, this is a snapshot of the segment. You can download the full roll plot online. And then finally, from 7th Avenue to Central Avenue, the preferred alternative is to extend to the bike lane. So this section of street is scheduled for repavement. We will be changing the striping when the street is repaved. So we will add a center turn lane. Right now it's 1 lane in each direction with bike lanes. So there's enough space on the street without moving the curbs to add a center turn lane and to add buffers to the bike lanes. So we'll be making those changes, and it will make the corridor consistent throughout. We'll also look to make sidewalk improvements where possible, and we'll underground the overhead electrical wires on the south side. And then here's a snapshot of those changes. So in terms of next steps, as I said, the tree planting near the canal, that's already programmed. Our maintenance team is working on it, and we're anticipating that those trees will go in fall of 2022. In 2023, the section from 7th Avenue to Central Avenue will be repaved. And when that's repaved, we'll make the changes to the striping. So we're excited to see that change happen. And then for the other two items, the sidewalk improvements and the undergrounding utilities on the south side of the street, that's not something that we can work into our existing maintenance work like the first two recommendations. So we're looking for so we will have to look for funding for a capital improvement plan project. We are actively looking for funding to see if we can find funding for that capital improvement plan project through our own capital improvement plan or through grant funding. But right now we're still looking for that before we can have a schedule for those next steps. So with that, I want to open up the floor to questions and comments, and I'll hand it over to Vivian.
Thank you, Marielle. So if you'd like to submit a question for the team to answer, go ahead and type it in the Q&A box. Just a friendly reminder to please submit your comments using the chat box. We will be sharing those with the project team as well. And on your screen, you'll see the order in which questions will be answered. So for those of you who pre-registered to be called on, we do ask that you limit your questions to 2 minutes when speaking so that we have enough time to get through everyone's remarks. You will see a timer at the bottom of your screen that alerts you of your speaking time, so please keep your eyes on the screen. So let's go ahead and get started with the Spanish language line questions. Albert, are there any at the moment?
No questions at this moment.
Alrighty, thank you. So now we will move to our pre-registered speakers, and I've got a list, so just bear with me while I go through these individuals and check to see if they are online. So we are looking for Joe M. Let me see if you are here. And just bear with me. Joe, I do see you. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm here, but I don't really have any questions at this point. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but
no problem.
Presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So we will move over to Stacia H. I do not see her online. If I see her pop up, I will go ahead and move towards her. So now we are looking for Jerry, and please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name. I also don't see Jerry, so we'll check on him a little bit later. We are looking for Diana, and Diana is not online, so we will look for her as well later. Moving over to Michael, you are online, so you are muted. Go ahead and ask your question. Hi, Michael, you should be unmuted. Can you ask your question? We can check on him a little bit later. I do see that he's online. Currently looking for Mark. Mark is not online. And Daniel, you are online. So moving over to Daniel, you are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question. Daniel, you should be unmuted. Go ahead and try speaking into your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. How much time do I have?
You've got 2 minutes and the timer just started.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Davis. I'm an internist and I'm a Sunny Slope resident. I've had the responsibility for caring for many people injured on Phoenix streets. So it's really important to me that we get this right on Hatcher. This project on Hatcher is too little. Safety needs to be the priority for this street, which is the heart of our neighborhood. For example, this plan maintains the speed limit on Hatcher at 35 miles per hour. We know that cars striking humans at 35 miles per hour are 7 times more likely to kill them than at 25 miles per hour. This plan maintains the paucity of crosswalks and includes curved instead of sharp corners that encourage drivers not to slow down for turns. These design elements prioritize car speed over safety. We need real traffic calming on Hatcher. Traffic calming is using the design to increase the safety of the street. This could be done with chicanes, speed bumps, curb elbows, bollards, raised crosswalks, traffic circles, and many other things. These safety interventions could be done immediately with cheap materials like cones and barrels. Instead, the streets department is maintaining the status quo. They're prioritizing the speed of cars driving through Sunny Slope over our safety. The Phoenix Streets Department's priorities have led to the epidemic of traffic violence in Phoenix, injuries and death. Phoenix is the worst large city for traffic deaths. The Phoenix Streets Department is responsible for this. So please bring this plan back to the drawing board and send us one where safety is the priority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
My
Dan.
apologies. Yeah, sorry, Marielle, anything that can be addressed from his comments that we can provide more information?
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for your input, and thank you for caring for people and for recognizing the importance of safety on our streets. The City of Phoenix is taking road safety seriously, and we just published our final road safety action plan today. It was posted online through the City Council agenda right before this meeting started. So I would encourage you to look at it. I'm not sure if it's posted on our direct link website yet. I don't know, Vivian, if you have that chat or have that link that you can share in the chat.
We'll be sharing that with everyone attending today.
Yeah, but it does set out a priority for adding safety features to our highest injury network and our most dangerous intersections. So thank you.
Alrighty. I know we had one individual who is with us who did want to speak, so I'm going to try unmuting you again, and hopefully you can ask your question to the project team. So just give me 1 second while I look for you again. Michael, I'm unmuting you. Can you hear us? Can you say something? Michael, can you hear us? Alrighty, I will move on to Joe. Joe M., you are unmuted. You can now ask your question.
Hi, I already passed. I was first to go, but definitely want to echo the previous speaker's desire for more crosswalks. I think that would be helpful. But otherwise, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. And I think we are going to go ahead and move on to some of our pre-registered questions so that we can get those addressed, and then we'll move over to the questions in the Q&A box. So I do appreciate you guys interacting with us, so keep that coming. So Bradley asked, the way Hatcher used to be from 19th to 7th with 2 lanes and 2 lanes east and 2 lanes west and a middle left turn lane was great. Most folks I know wanted it to continue that way all the way to Cave Creek Road. The way it is now is terrible behind a bus, dangerously slow. I know we talked about buses. Anything that can be shared regarding Bradley's comment?
Yeah, certainly. So for anyone who doesn't know, the design of Hatcher used to be 2 lanes in each direction. And then at the intersections, there was a turn lane. The street widens out at the intersection. So it was 2 in each direction with a center turn, or with a left turn lane and then 2. The changes that we made, not part of this project, but previously to add bike lanes also allowed us to add a center turn lane. And that change from 2 lanes in each direction with no center turn lane to 1 lane in each direction with a center turn lane is a classic road diet and a classic safety project. It really has the opportunity to reduce crashes, to reduce collision points, and it makes sure that when people are turning left, they're kind of in that dedicated space. We've definitely heard a lot of feedback from this, and we certainly understand. We've heard from a lot of people who do feel that it slowed them down, and we also have heard from a lot of people that really appreciate the change and really feel that it's helped to facilitate left turns, to calm traffic, to get people to follow the speed limit, and also to add bike lanes and more options to the street. So we are keeping that current design in place, and we've heard a lot of positive feedback from it as well.
Okay, thank you, Marielle. The next question comes to us from Jack. I know several people who would bike more often if they felt that they were better protected with barriers on bike paths. Have you considered the possibility of adding concrete barriers in the future?
So as part of this project, we really looked at everything that was possible within the current curb to curb. And with the current street, because there are so many driveways, there's so much access, including angle parking, where the entire parking lot is essentially a driveway to park in front of the businesses. Adding concrete barriers wouldn't work with all of those driveway conflicts. Typically, we need a section of street with less access to make it work. Otherwise, with all of the turns in and out of driveways, the cyclists aren't really benefiting from that protection. So we didn't recommend those changes. The other challenge is the street width. Right now we have buffers. They're about 2.5 feet wide. And to add a concrete barrier would take more width. And so that's something that we just don't have in the street. And it was one of the reasons why we were doing the study, was to figure out what is possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Next question is from Caroline. She asks 2 questions. First being, with the suggested design recommendations, would you consider the design to enhance walkability on sidewalks? And 2, will the new design recommendations attract retail businesses to the Hatcher corridor?
Yeah, so one of the key recommendations is to do sidewalk improvements, to improve the sidewalk wherever possible along the corridor. So that should enhance walkability, and it should make it easier and safer for people to walk by bringing the sidewalks up to ADA compliance where possible. And in terms of will it attract retail, what we find is that when streets are a little bit more pleasant to be on, oftentimes that's something that retail businesses are interested in. But as the Street Transportation Department, we don't have a direct role in directly attracting those retail businesses. But we certainly do see that there's interest when we improve the street.
All righty. And the final question that we have that was submitted during the registration process was, what can be done about the homeless people in the area? So if there are homeless people in the area, the best way to help them and support them is to contact Phoenix Cares, PHX Cares. And Vivian, would you be able to, you were able to drop the link, so thank you. That is the central resource for working on homeless issues within the city of Phoenix. And contacting them, they'll be able to reach out to the homeless people or the people without homes in the area and work with them to try to find resources. Alrighty, so those were the pre-registered questions. I am scrolling through the chat and the Q&A box, so let's go ahead and tackle some of the Q&A questions. And I know that they may have already been answered, but just so that we're all aware, Mariel, maybe you could address this. Annie is asking, what is the reason for adding a center turn lane in the section rather than adding a center turn lane? Could there be wider sidewalks and vertically buffered bike lanes? So the reason we looked at adding the center turn lane was to first make it consistent throughout the corridor. We've heard that there's interest in keeping it consistent. In order to widen the sidewalks, we would have to move the curb inward, kind of narrow the street, and that would impact drainage. So it would turn the project into something much, much larger because of the drainage impacts from changing the width of the street. And so that's why the narrower sidewalks were not recommended, and it is something we looked at. In terms of looking at concrete barriers or some other barrier for the bike lane, the reason we went with a center turn lane is because of those driveway access issues, also trying to keep it consistent through the corridor with a similar, buffered bike lane design. And then finally, one thing we found is that when we have really, really wide bike lanes or really wide buffers or really wide traffic lanes for that matter, cars drive in the bike lanes
and they drive very fast. So the center turn lane is a way of dividing up that space better and really making sure that people don't feel like they can drive in the bike lanes or in the bike lane buffers, and that they don't feel like they can speed super fast.
All righty, thank you for that. Another question, which I think we may have addressed, is there a reason that concrete curbing or plastic barriers are not being used to separate bike lanes from cars?
We did discuss that, and because of the width of the existing buffers, there's not space to put those items in the existing buffers, and then because of the driveways, it wouldn't be consistent at all, and it would give kind of a false sense of protection to the bicyclists, as the protected lane would have kind of incursions all the time. And one of the reasons why we're very hesitant around that is that it also can restrict the visibility. So if you have those, if you have the flex delineators up, it might interfere with the drivers seeing bicyclists as they're making the turn, which is absolutely something we don't want to happen.
Annie has a really great question. Marielle, let me know if you would be a good expert for this, or if we should toss it to someone else. Is there a consideration to reduce the speed limit to 25 miles per hour so as to make it safer for people to walk and bike along it?
Yeah, so the decisions for speed limits, that's really made through our traffic services department. It's not something that we typically make recommendations on for a CIP project or a pre-design project like this. I believe that Bruce is on the call, so I can throw it over to him maybe.
I am on the call.
Perfect. Thank you.
And can answer it to a point. Can that be looked at? Yes. Historically, have we? There has to be something that makes the just posting a speed limit doesn't necessarily make people go slower. You've already put elements in here with the buffered bike lane, with the narrower streets. If people are actually going slower, then can it be looked at? So Marielle, from the perspective of the program, can we look at it as a possibility? Yes. Do we anticipate that it can be done? Probably not. But it doesn't mean that it can't be looked at. It was raised as a question. We can certainly look at it in response to the question.
Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate that. I will go through the chat box to see if maybe there are any questions that were put in there. I know that there are a lot of comments, so keep those going. Again, those help serve the project team. Someone did ask, is the city planning to take property along Hatcher to facilitate the project? If so, which properties? Does anybody have any information on that? I think you might be muted.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, definitely. So if you look at, in order to expand the sidewalk in places, we will need to acquire right-of-way. This isn't a large amount of property that we would need to acquire, but if you download the roll plot online, it's very detailed. It shows, there's a pinkish red color that shows the areas where a right-of-way acquisition would be required to widen the sidewalk. And it also gives you a sense of kind of, the 1 to 2 feet that we're looking at. And again, all of that would be done during the design and then construction phases. So right now, we're still looking for funding for this project, so there's no immediate impact to properties. But in a future phase, yes, it would have a slight impact.
Alrighty, thank you for that. I'm just scrolling through the chat box to see if there are any other questions that may have made their way over there. I don't see any other new questions in the Q&A box. And with that, we have answered everyone who is participating. I'm going to take another quick second and look through our registered speakers and see if anybody else has logged in. So just bear with me for a moment while we double check. We definitely want to make sure that people can speak up if they so desire. So give us one quick second. I still see Michael with us. I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute you again. Michael, can you speak with us? Michael? Alrighty, I'm not quite sure what could be going on, but hopefully you can just interact with us in the Q&A box if you're still participating with us. And I don't see anyone else that has logged in that did request to speak. I do want to make sure that we answer any questions that you guys might have. So go ahead and submit them in the Q&A box. I think we just got one more. Vance is asking, why can't the raised round bumps be used in the buffer zone?
All right, I'm so sorry about that. I'm using my phone for better audio quality, and it went to sleep, so I had to unmute myself. So the reason that we wouldn't use the round bumps, and I'm guessing you're talking about the ones that are used more in roadway conditions. We've looked at using those for bike lanes, but because they're very slippery, we have found that it's not a good idea to use them in bike lanes because if someone hits them with their bike tire, that round bump becomes a hazard. We do have another product that's similar, the Zebra, that we have installed along bike lanes before, and we actually received a lot of feedback that people didn't like them in the bike lane buffer. So it's certainly something that we can continue to look at. But again, in an area where, like this, where we have so many driveways, it's a challenge to put anything in the buffer. From a design standpoint, you want that to be consistent. Once you get to, less than 50% of the buffer having the things, people don't expect them, and then they become hazards to kind of everyone. So that's why we haven't looked at that particular idea.
They have a follow-up question asking, how about pavement grooving in the buffer?
So that's something that I'm aware that I believe Tempe has done that. It's certainly something that we've looked at, but again, the pavement grooving and buffers, that's something that we're hesitant to do because it can become difficult for the bicyclists if they need to leave the bike lane for any reason. That could be unpleasant or even dangerous for them. So we don't want to add something that might be challenging for the bicyclist in the buffer, because we know that bicyclists do leave the bike lane, and we know that they do sometimes go into the buffer.
Marielle, to add to that, this is Bruce. The other thing that does is produce noise. So this is, so it will have a significant noise effect in a neighborhood.
We did get another question. Any chance, this was in reference to, I believe, the speed limit. David was saying that they think Hatcher would make more sense as a 25-mile-per-hour street. Any chance we can change it to a slow-moving continuous flow rather than go fast between frequent lights? And they were saying this in response to, they said, sorry, I'm going back to your comment, that they've timed themselves driving down the street. It averages 12 to 16 miles per hour after waiting at lights despite driving 35 miles per hour between lights. So they're wondering, is there any change, any possibility to change it to a slower moving street? And I believe that Bruce had mentioned that this is something with this comment that we can take back to the team and investigate a little bit more. Please let me know if I'm missing any other information.
No, Vivian, I think you answered it correctly. That can it be looked at as part of it? And I don't know the class of the road off the top of my head. So it really, there's a number of factors that go into that. Can we look at it as part and response to the project and the comments made? We owe them a response, period.
All righty, thank you. And I think those are all the questions that we've got. I'm not seeing any more that are in the Q&A box. Again, thank you for, actually, I think we just got one. Can you put in roundabouts at 7th Ave and Central?
That's not something we looked at as part of this project. Typically to put in a roundabout, especially for a street that takes, especially Central Avenue and 7th Avenue, streets that have a lot of traffic, it would be a massive roundabout. It would involve taking right-of-way, really redesigning the entire street. Bruce, is there anything you would like to add?
You did a good job. It would have a significant impact to do it correctly, as you pointed out. It would not be trivial. And one of the other things that tends to roundabouts don't tend to get used properly. They do on a local street. That's not the case here.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm not seeing any other questions. I do see we've received more comments, so thank you for that as well. We do have, Mariel, I think we'll be closing up the Q&A comments. I did want to go to the next slide where we share information for everyone as to how they can reach us as well. So go ahead and visit the project webpage for project updates. That's Phoenix.gov/streets/Hatcher. We do have a project hotline. That number is 623-825-3444. There's two different contacts for the project team. You can email Albert, and that's agranillo@gciaz.com, or you can email Mariel at mariel.brown@phoenix.gov. If you go to our project website, you will see that there's also a comment form. You can submit comments that way as well if you'd rather not email us or call us. So just know that those resources are available. We do appreciate everyone's participation. I know we were a small group, but this was a very involved and active group, so we really do appreciate you taking the time. We're here for a reason. We're not just hearing things and doing nothing about it. I know I read a couple comments of people feeling that way, so I do apologize for you having those thoughts, but we're here to make positive changes. We do appreciate how involved you guys have been. So all of these comments will go back to the project team. Again, to check for project updates, go to Phoenix.gov/streets/Hatcher. That is where we will be posting everything that comes about this project. We do have your emails now that you've participated in this meeting, and we will be following back up, emailing you guys any updates that come to be. So we do appreciate your participation tonight, and now you know how to reach out to us as well. So thank you so much for attending tonight's meeting. We appreciate everyone's time.